What if the only reason you haven't chased your dream is because you're afraid of who you might become if you actually try? Not afraid of failure, afraid of finding out you're capable of more. Sit with that for a second. Because most people say they're scared of failing, but that's not the full truth. Failure is painful, yeah, but unrealized potential? That's haunting. You feel it late at night, when everything gets quiet, when the distractions fade. There's this whisper, this isn't it. You go to work, you scroll, you laugh with friends, you handle responsibilities. From the outside, you're functioning, maybe even successful. But inside, there's tension, like you're living at 60% of your capacity. And here's the uncomfortable question. Is this you or just me? Because if it is you, then you already know what I'm talking about. That dream you had, maybe you still have it. Start the business, write the book, change careers, move cities, build the body, create something that matters. And yet, you haven't fully committed. Why? This next part might sting. You didn't stop chasing your dreams because you're lazy. You stopped because somewhere along the way, you made comfort your priority. And comfort is sneaky. It disguises itself as responsibility, as practicality, as being realistic. You tell yourself, now's not the right time. I need more savings. I need more experience. I'll start next year. But years pass fast, scary fast, and that's when it hits you. You're not waiting for the right time. You're waiting to feel safe. But dreams are not built in safety. They're built in uncertainty. Here's the pattern nobody warns you about. At first, you dream big. You feel excited, invincible. Then reality pushes back. Bills, opinions, doubt. Your own inner critic gets louder. Who do you think you are? You're not special. People like you don't do things like that. And slowly, you shrink. Not all at once, just enough to stay comfortable. Just enough to stop risking embarrassment. Just enough to silence the dream. But here's the twist. The dream doesn't disappear. It waits. It waits while you distract yourself. It waits while you settle. It waits while you convince yourself that average is enough. Let me ask you something. When you see someone else doing what you once wanted to do you feel inspired or irritated? Be honest, because irritation isn't jealousy, it's recognition. It's your mind saying, that could have been you. Most people won't admit that part. I used to think I was overambitious, like wanting more was a flaw, like being content meant shrinking my desires. But contentment and surrender are not the same thing. You can be grateful and still hungry. And this is where things change. The real reason people stop chasing their dreams isn't failure, it's identity. Somewhere deep down you decided, maybe I'm not that person. Not the entrepreneur, not the artist, not the leader, not the one who stands out. So you adjusted your goals to match your self-image. That's how powerful identity is. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your self-concept. And if your self-concept is small, your life will shrink to match it. Think about it for a second. Who did you have to become to stop chasing your dream? More cautious? More realistic? More quiet? This next part changes everything. What if the dream isn't asking you to achieve something? What if it's asking you to become someone? Because chasing a dream isn't about the outcome. It's about transformation. You don't pursue the dream to prove something to the world. You pursue it because of who it forces you to become. Disciplined, courageous, resilient, focused. And here's the fear underneath it all. If you truly commit, There's no going back to playing small. And that's terrifying. Because playing small is familiar. It's predictable. It's safe. But safe doesn't feel alive. And you know it. So here you are, stuck between comfort and calling, between security and possibility, between the life you have and the life you imagine. And the tension is exhausting. But wait till you hear this. That tension? It's not a sign you should quit. It's proof you haven't given up yet. That tension? It's proof you haven't given up yet. Because if you had truly quit, you wouldn't feel conflicted. You'd feel numb. And numb is dangerous. Numb says, this is fine. Numb says, this is just how life is. But you're not numb. You're restless. And restlessness is the beginning of the hero's journey. Here's where it gets real. You don't wake up one day and boldly chase your dream. You wake up one day and realize the cost of not chasing it is getting heavier. Heavier than the fear. Heavier than the risk. Heavier than the opinions. Let me ask you something. 5 years from now, which regret would hurt more? Trying and failing, or never trying at all? Don't answer quickly. Actually think about it, because your answer reveals more about you than you realize. This is the moment of realization. Something is wrong. Not with your life, with your alignment. You've been living according to expectations, family expectations, society's timeline, the invisible pressure to be stable. But stability without fulfillment feels like a cage with padded walls, comfortable, but confining. And here's the part nobody tells you. You can build a perfectly acceptable life and still feel like you're betraying yourself. That feeling? That's not immaturity. That's intuition. It's the quiet voice saying, there's more. But now comes resistance, and resistance is loud. It says, be realistic. It's too late. You don't have what it takes. Other people are already ahead. Type A if that voice sounds familiar. Type B if you've never heard it. You see how automatic it is? The comparison, the self-doubt, the fear of being behind. But here's a surprising realization. You're not behind. You're early in your own story. You're comparing your chapter 2 to someone else's chapter 20, and that's unfair. But your mind doesn't care about fairness. It cares about safety. If it convinces you that you're already too late, you won't try. And if you don't try, you can't fail. That's the trick. Your brain would rather protect your ego than fulfill your dream. Sit with that, because the war isn't external. It's internal protection versus expansion. Now here's where things shift. What if chasing your dream isn't about certainty? What if it's about tolerance? Tolerance for discomfort, tolerance for embarrassment, tolerance for slow progress. Most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they can't tolerate the in-between, the messy middle, the phase where you're not good yet, the phase where no one claps, the phase where you question everything. And here's a shared confession. I used to think successful people felt confident the whole way through. They don't. They just move anyway. Confidence isn't the cause. It's the reward. This next part changes everything. You don't need to know how it will all work out. You just need to decide that quitting is no longer an option. That doesn't mean you never pivot. It doesn't mean you ignore reality. It means you stop abandoning yourself the moment it gets uncomfortable. Let me ask you something. How many times have you restarted your dream? New year, new motivation, new plan. And then life happens. You get busy. You get tired. You get discouraged. and you stop. Not because you don't care, but because you lost momentum. Here's the truth. Momentum isn't magic. It's built through small daily actions, even on low-energy days, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one sees it. This is where the hero chooses differently. Instead of waiting to feel ready, they start feeling ready by starting. It sounds backwards. It is, but it works, because action rewires belief. Every time you show up, even imperfectly, you send a signal to your brain. I am someone who tries. That identity shift, that's everything. But here's where it gets deeper. Chasing your dream will expose your weaknesses, your procrastination, your insecurity, your fear of judgment. And that's why most people avoid it. Not because the dream is too big, but because growth is confronting. It forces you to see yourself clearly. So the question isn't, can you achieve it? The question is, are you willing to see who you need to become? And that identity? It's stronger than applause. Because applause fades, results fluctuate, algorithms change, people lose interest. But self-respect, that stays. And here's where the journey comes full circle. At the beginning, you thought chasing your dream was about achievement, money, recognition, freedom. But now you see it differently. It's about alignment. It's about waking up and not feeling that quiet disappointment in yourself. It's about looking in the mirror and knowing you didn't choose comfort over calling. Now here's the part nobody warns you about. When you fully commit, life doesn't instantly get easier. In fact, it might get messier. You'll notice your bad habits more, your time-wasting patterns, your excuses, and for a moment it'll feel overwhelming, like you're suddenly aware of everything you need to fix. So why does this keep happening? Because awareness comes before transformation. You can't change what you refuse to see, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's growth. Uncomfortable, necessary, powerful. But wait till you hear this. You don't have to fix everything at once. That's the old mindset talking, the all-or-nothing trap, the new year, new life illusion. Real change is quieter than that. It's repetitive. It's boring sometimes. It's showing up when no one's watching. And here's a truth most people won't admit. Consistency is more impressive than talent. Talent might get attention. Consistency builds legacy. So let me ask you something. Are you chasing quick validation or long-term fulfillment? Because they require different versions of you. One seeks applause. The other seeks progress. One quits when it's not fun. The other stays when it's not glamorous. And this is the emotional shift. You stop asking, is this working yet? And you start asking, am I becoming stronger? That question changes your focus. Suddenly setbacks aren't proof you should stop. They're proof you're in the arena, and being in the arena is rare. Most people watch from the sidelines. They comment, they critique, they dream quietly, but they don't move. You're different. You're here, still listening, still feeling that pull. That's not accidental. Let's do a quiet self-check. Right now, in this moment, do you feel more afraid of failing or more afraid of staying the same? Don't overthink it. Just notice the first reaction, because that reaction is your compass. And here's the final realization. Never stop chasing your dreams doesn't mean run non-stop until you collapse. It means don't emotionally abandon them. You can rest, you can adjust, you can pivot, but don't betray the part of you that wants more. Because that desire, it was placed in you for a reason, not to torture you, but to stretch you. And yes, some days you'll doubt yourself. Some days you'll question everything. Some days you'll wonder if it's worth it.
That's normal. That's human. But what separates the ones who eventually build something meaningful isn't genius. It isn't luck. It's refusal. Refusal to let temporary discomfort dictate permanent decisions. Refusal to let fear write the final chapter. Refusal to settle when something inside keeps whispering, "Keep going." And one day, not tomorrow, not instantly, you'll look back. You'll realize the dream didn't just change your life. It changed you. You became disciplined, patient, resilient, focused. You became someone you respect. And that's the real win. Because even if the exact vision shifts, even if the timeline changes, the growth stays. So here's the only question that matters now. Are you willing to keep going, even when it's quiet, even when it's slow, even when no one notices? If this felt personal, if it felt like someone just described your inner battle, don't ignore that. Sit with it. Choose one small action today, just one, and protect it. Because chasing your dreams isn't a dramatic moment. It's a daily decision, and you only need to decide once more than you quit. If this hit home, don't just scroll, subscribe, and start choosing a braver way to live.
Are you willing to see who you need to become? Because that's the part nobody glamorizes. We love the highlight reel, the launch, the promotion, the transformation photo. But we rarely talk about the identity shift underneath it all. And this is where it gets uncomfortable. The version of you who achieves the dream doesn't think like you think right now, doesn't move like you move right now, doesn't tolerate what you tolerate right now. Let that sink in. If you could reach the dream with your current habits, mindset, and discipline, you would have already done it. So this isn't about chasing harder, it's about evolving deeper. Here's the resistance kicking in again. But what if I change and people don't like me? What if I outgrow my circle? What if I try and realize I'm not as talented as I thought? Those fears are real, and they're human. But wait till you hear this. The bigger fear should be this. What if you never find out what you're capable of? That's the haunting one. Because regret compounds. You don't feel it fully at 25. You feel it at 35, at 45. When the window feels smaller, when responsibilities are heavier, when energy isn't what it used to be. And suddenly the dream feels distant, not impossible, just neglected. Let me ask you something quietly. If nothing changed in your life for the next 5 years, would you be proud or disappointed? Don't rush that answer, because that image you just saw in your mind, that's clarity. This is the turning point in the journey. The moment the hero realizes staying the same is no longer acceptable. Not dramatic, not loud, just a quiet decision. I can't keep betraying myself. And this next part changes everything. You don't need a massive leap. You need a non-negotiable standard. One standard. Maybe it's this. I work on my dream for 30 minutes a day, no matter what. Tired? Still 30 minutes. Busy? Still 30 minutes. Unmotivated? Especially 30 minutes. Because discipline isn't about intensity. It's about identity. You become someone who shows up, and that identity begins to bleed into everything. You start walking differently, speaking differently, choosing differently. Not because you're pretending, because you're aligning. But here's the part most people misunderstand. Chasing your dream will not eliminate fear. It will amplify it. At first, you'll feel exposed, vulnerable, like everyone is watching. Here's the ironic truth. Most people are too busy worrying about themselves to analyze you. That fear of judgment? It's louder in your head than in reality. Be honest. How often do you deeply judge someone for trying something new? Probably rarely. So why assume everyone is dissecting your every move? This is where emotional intelligence matters. You learn to observe your fear without obeying it. Fear says, "Don't post that." You say, "I'm posting it anyway." Fear says, "You'll look stupid." You say, "Maybe, and I'll survive." That's growth, not the absence of fear, the presence of courage. Here's a shared confession. The first time I fully committed to a big goal, I expected excitement. Instead, I felt anxiety, doubt, second-guessing. I thought something was wrong. But nothing was wrong. I was stretching, and stretching feels uncomfortable. So let me ask you this. Are you uncomfortable because you're failing, or because you're growing? There's a difference, and recognizing it changes how you interpret struggle. This next realization is powerful. Chasing your dream is less about proving something to the world, and more about keeping a promise to yourself. And every time you break that promise, even silently, a part of your self-trust erodes. But every time you keep it, even in small ways, self-respect grows. And self-respect is addictive. You stop wanting shortcuts. You stop craving validation, because you know who you are becoming. And that identity, it's stronger than applause.